Ever just stumble across something that seems, I don't know, kind of ordinary at first glance, but then you take a closer look and you realize there's something more there, something really profound hidden beneath the surface.
It's like that saying, right? Don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be diving into today, learning to see beyond the surface, to recognize the majesty hidden in the ordinary.
Our senses can be tricky like that, you know? They draw us to whatever's flashy, impressive, the stuff that grabs our attention right away.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all that.
But sometimes, the most profound truths, the most breathtaking beauty, it's hidden in plain sight. It takes a different kind of seeing to really grasp it.
So how do we develop that different kind of seeing? The text we're exploring today keeps referring to it as the eyes of faith. What do you make of that?
It's like we're being given a new lens to view the world through, isn't it? One that allows us to see beyond the superficial, to perceive the divine will at work, even in the most unexpected places.
Okay, I like that. A new lens. So it's not about denying reality or pretending things are different than they are. It's about choosing to see things through a different filter, one that's rooted in faith.
Exactly. And the text gives us this really vivid illustration. Imagine you're in Bethlehem. You come across a young couple, Mary and Joseph, with their newborn baby. Nothing particularly remarkable, right? Or so it seems.
Right, just an ordinary family, a simple life.
But what if you knew that this baby, this seemingly ordinary child, was actually destined to be king?
Wow, yeah, that changes things, doesn't it? Suddenly the stable transforms into a palace, the swaddling clothes become royal garments.
It's all about perspective. And that's the point the text is driving at. Faith allows us to see beyond the surface, to recognize the significance of what's unfolding right before our eyes, even when it doesn't fit our preconceived notions of what's important. Just like those who were present at Jesus' birth, Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, the magi, they didn't need outward grandeur to recognize the magnitude of what they were witnessing.
Because they were looking with those eyes of faith we were talking about.
Precisely. And in doing so, they were able to encounter true majesty, even in the humblest of settings.
It makes you wonder how often we miss those extraordinary moments, those glimpses of the divine in our own lives, simply because we're not attuned to them, right?
All the time, probably. We're so conditioned to look for the obvious, the impressive, that we often overlook the quiet power, the profound beauty of the ordinary.
It's easy to get caught up in that, for sure. But let me ask you this. Is it always easy to maintain that perspective, to see with those eyes of faith, especially when things get tough? Is it easier to sense God's presence when life is good, when everything's running smoothly?
It's a really interesting question, and it's something the text grapples with directly. It suggests that true faith isn't about having blind faith when things are easy, you know? It's about clinging to that faith, even when, even especially when life throws those curveballs our way.
So it's not about having all the answers or being able to explain away suffering or hardship. It's about holding on to that trust, that belief that even in the midst of those challenges, there's a bigger plan unfolding.
You got it. And the text goes even further, suggesting that those very challenges, those moments of darkness and doubt, are often the crucibles in which our faith is tested, refined, and ultimately strengthened.
So it's less about having a smooth and easy ride and more about the process of being refined, of growing through those difficult experiences.
Exactly. It's like, imagine a lump of coal. It takes intense heat, intense pressure to transform that coal into a diamond. And yet the diamond is all the more beautiful, all the more valuable because of what it's endured.
That's a powerful analogy. So it's not that those challenges are inherently good or desirable. It's that God can use them, can work through them to bring about something beautiful and valuable in our lives, something we wouldn't experience otherwise. But that takes a tremendous amount of trust, doesn't it? Trust that there's a bigger picture even when we can't see it, and that we're being guided toward it even when the path is unclear.
You're absolutely right. And the text makes it clear that this isn't about passive resignation, about just throwing our hands up and saying, okay, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
It's about actively surrendering our will to a power greater than ourselves, believing that even when we don't understand, we're being held and guided toward a greater good.
So it's more like we're participating in this unfolding, this process of transformation, by choosing to trust, even when it's hard, that there's a purpose, even when we can't see it.
Yes. It's about recognizing that we're not alone in the midst of those struggles, that there's a force, a love, a presence that's always with us, guiding us, sustaining us, even when we feel most lost and alone.
So we're talking about more than just enduring those tough times, right? It's about finding a way to actually believe that something good can come from them.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be clear here. This isn't about denying the very real pain and suffering that people experience. The text isn't advocating for some kind of naive optimism like, just think happy thoughts and everything will be fine.
Right. It acknowledges the reality of suffering.
Exactly. It's more about cultivating a deep, almost defiant trust that God can and does work through even the most difficult, even horrific experiences to bring about a greater good.
Okay, so not ignoring the hard stuff, but choosing to believe that something meaningful can come from it.
Yes. And the text uses this incredibly powerful metaphor of divine craftsmanship. Imagine a sculptor with this rough, unyielding block of stone. What we might see as flaws, imperfections, the sculptor sees as opportunities.
Each mark, each groove tells a story.
Exactly. Each chisel blow, even though it seems to mar the stone at first, is actually shaping it, revealing the masterpiece hidden within.
Okay, so even those experiences that feel painful, unfair, maybe even cruel, those can ultimately become part of our own unique process of being shaped, refined.
It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, forged in fire.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like that. It's not that those difficult experiences themselves are good, but that God can use them, can somehow work through them to bring about our ultimate good. Think about people you know, maybe even yourself, who've gone through really intense things, hardships, loss, heartbreak. Often when you look back, those very trials, they led to incredible growth, resilience, a depth of compassion that you might not have developed otherwise. It's like those trials, they become part of what makes us, us.
That resonates for sure. But I gotta say, that takes a lot of trust. Believing that there's a bigger picture, a design, even when you can't see it, and that you're being guided towards it, even when the path is anything but clear.
It absolutely does. And the text is very clear about this, that this kind of trust, it's not passive. It's not about sitting back and just letting life happen to us. It's about actively surrendering our will, our need to control, to a power greater than ourselves. Believing, trusting that even when we don't understand what's happening, we're still being held. We're still being guided.
So it's more like we're participating in this unfolding, this process of transformation by choosing to trust that there's a purpose, even when things are tough, even when we can't see the way forward.
Got it. And that takes courage, right? To let go of that need to control, to have all the answers, and instead to embrace the uncertainty, even the wildness of life with this deep sense of hope, maybe even, dare I say, excitement.
Okay, so we're talking about cultivating this radical trust, this almost childlike faith that allows us to see the divine hand at work, even in the midst of really difficult circumstances. But the text doesn't stop there, does it? It actually goes beyond just enduring those challenges and talks about finding joy, peace, even in the midst of them. How is that even possible when you're in the middle of some really heavy stuff?
Yeah, this is where the text gets truly mind-blowing. It's suggesting that maybe, just maybe, true peace, true joy, it's not found in the absence of difficulty, but in this unwavering belief that even in the midst of it all, we're being held. We're being guided towards our highest good, towards a love that surpasses all understanding.
So it's not about pretending everything's okay when it's not. It's about accessing this deeper well of peace and joy, one that transcends our circumstances, no matter how challenging they might be.
You got it. It's about recognizing that our worth, our value, it's not tied to those external circumstances, those ups and downs we all face, but to something much deeper, something unchanging, immutable even. And that realization, that shift in perspective, it can be so freeing, so incredibly liberating.
I can see how that would be, for sure. But how do we tap into that deeper well of peace and joy, especially when life feels chaotic, overwhelming? What are some practical things we can do to cultivate that kind of unshakable faith?
Well, the text offers some really beautiful guidance on that. It emphasizes the importance of engaging in practices that connect us to something larger than ourselves. Things like prayer, meditation, spending time in nature, engaging in acts of service to others.
So it's about actively cultivating that sense of connection, that awareness of God's presence in our lives. And we can do that through practices that nourish our spirits, that help us to see things differently.
Exactly. And it's not about adding more to our already busy lives, you know? It's more about approaching those everyday moments, those simple acts, with intentionality, with this sense of reverence even. Like we're searching for the sacred in the midst of the ordinary.
So it's about slowing down, paying attention, being present.
Yes. It's about finding those pockets of stillness in the midst of chaos. Those moments of grace that remind us that we're not alone in this journey, that there's a force, a presence, a love that's always with us, even when we can't feel it.
I love that. It's about creating space for those aha moments, those glimpses of divine beauty and wonder to just emerge in our everyday lives. And the text reminds us that those moments are everywhere, aren't they? We just have to train ourselves to see them.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a posture of openness and receptivity, a willingness to see the world through the eyes of faith. And as we do that, as we start to look for them, the text suggests that we'll begin to notice those footprints of God everywhere.
In the beauty of nature, in the kindness of strangers, even in the challenges that push us to grow.
Exactly. And in those quiet moments of solitude and reflection too, those moments where we allow ourselves to just be still and know, it's in those spaces that we often encounter the divine most fully.
It's like we're being invited to become explorers of our own lives, to approach each day with this sense of wonder and curiosity, looking for those subtle but profound reminders of God's presence in everything.
And isn't that a beautiful way to live? To approach each day as a gift, an opportunity to uncover hidden treasures, to find meaning and purpose in the seemingly mundane. The text seems to be saying that when we cultivate that kind of awareness, the world transforms before our very eyes. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The challenging, even the heartbreaking, becomes an invitation to grow, to evolve, to become more fully who we were created to be. And even the painful reveals its hidden purpose, its significance in the grand scheme of things.
Wow, that's an incredibly powerful way to look at it. It's like we're being given permission to rewrite the narrative of our own lives, to stop focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, what's out of our control, and instead start celebrating the abundance of grace, of beauty, of love that surrounds us. It's about choosing to focus on what we're grateful for, what brings us joy, what reminds us that we're part of something much larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not about denying the very real pain and suffering that exists in the world either. It's about recognizing that even in the darkest of times, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges, there's always something to be grateful for. There's always a reason to hope.
So how do we do that? How do we hold on to that hope, that sense of gratitude, when life inevitably throws those curveballs our way?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't know that there's a simple answer, a magic formula. But I think the text reminds us that true faith, true resilience, it's not about having all the answers, about never doubting, about living a life that's free from challenges and pain. It's about embracing the entirety of the journey, the highs and the lows, the moments of clarity and the moments of complete and utter doubt, and trusting that through it all, we're being guided, we're being held, we're being loved.
It's about trusting that even when we can't see the path, there is a path. And maybe, just maybe, it's leading us somewhere pretty extraordinary. It's like we're trading in our old blurry lenses for a new pair, right? The kind that helps us see the world lit up by faith.
It's more than just seeing things differently, though. It's about really living from that place, that deep down trust that no matter what happens, even if we stumble, even if we fall flat on our faces, even if we can't make heads or tails of what's going on, we're still held. There's something bigger than us that's got us.
You know what this whole conversation reminds me of? Those optical illusions. You look at a picture and see one thing, and then somebody points something out, a hidden image, and bam, you can't unsee it. It's like that with faith, isn't it? Once you start looking for those footprints of God, those little glimpses of the divine in the everyday, man, they're everywhere. The whole world kind of transforms right in front of you.
You said it. And the amazing thing is, it's not like the world itself magically changes. It's our perception of it, We shift our focus. We stop dwelling on what's wrong, what's missing, what we don't have. And we start seeing the good, the possibilities, all that abundance that's already there. It's like we become more tuned in to those little whispers of grace all around us, those reminders that we're a part of something way bigger than just ourselves.
So we're being invited to kind of fall in love with right now, with the present moment, to find that joy, that wonder, and those everyday miracles that we just take for granted, those aha moments that remind us we're not alone, that we're part of something truly beautiful and amazing.
Yes. And you know what? It's in those moments, those ordinary, everyday, but still somehow sacred moments.
Yeah.
That's where we catch glimpses of that hidden majesty that's all around us. That beautiful sunrise, the sound of a kid laughing, some random stranger doing something kind for no reason. Those are the threads of grace woven into the very fabric of our lives. They remind us that no matter how dark things get, there's always light, always hope, always love.
It's like we need reminding sometimes that the most important stuff, the things that really matter, are often right there in front of us, hidden in plain sight. We just need to hit the brakes, pay attention, really open ourselves up to that possibility of running into the divine when we least expect it.
That's the heart of it, I think. Life, the whole wild ride, it's a sacred journey. It's an invitation to wake up to the wonder of it all, the hidden majesty surrounding us. We have to learn to see with those eyes of faith, trust in that power that's bigger than all of us, and just embrace the adventure of becoming who we were meant to be all along.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to wrap things up. So as we finish this deep dive today, here's a little something to think about. What if you lived your life as an act of faith? Could you trust that even when you're unsure, even when you feel lost, that there's something guiding you, leading you towards something more incredible than you can even imagine?
What hidden treasures, what wonders could you uncover if you looked at those everyday miracles with new eyes? What would it mean for you to step into the fullness of your own life, your own purpose? Those are questions worth exploring.